Oftentimes, people try to make the argument that movie characters were sometimes justified, or maybe even not justified, in their crimes, particularly because a character's motivation for doing something can go a long way in making them sympathetic or unsympathetic to the audience. Now, one character that could lead to a lot of debate in this regard is Soto, the villain from the original Ice Age movie. The leader of Diego's pack of saber-toothed tigers, and absolutely intent on killing a human baby as revenge, many have argued over whether or not he was justified in wanting to avenge his pack members, and if he takes things too far for him to come across as in any way sympathetic. And today, to the best of my ability, I would like to try and settle this debate once and for all. Was Soto justified in his actions during the events of the first Ice Age movie, or not? And obviously there will be spoilers ahead, so in case you haven't seen Ice Age yet and don't want anything ruined, you might want to click off the video. Alright. So at first glance, it can be pretty easy to see why some might view Soto in a sympathetic light, because not only is he the leader of a pack trying to survive in desperate times, but it's also mentioned in a conversation towards the beginning that the reason he wants revenge is because the human tribe killed half of their pack. And you have to admit, avenging fallen comrades is often a motivation that is put in a sympathetic light. However, the truth is that if one wants to view Soto this way, then there are many things about him that they would have to straight up ignore. Because for one thing, he wants to get revenge by going after the human tribe leader's baby, rather than the people who were actually responsible for killing his packmates in the first place. And it's obvious he wants to do this, not only to hurt the tribe leader by proxy, but because he knows that trying to attack the tribe head-on would only lead to the entire slaughter of the pack, and thus wants to go after somebody weak and defenseless as his form of revenge instead. And not to mention, it's never said why the human tribe killed half his pack in the first place. For all we know, Soto could have tried attacking the tribe for food, and they were simply defending themselves. And if that is indeed the case, then that already puts Soto in an even worse light, because that means he wants revenge for something he actively started. But of course, that in particular is based solely off speculation. But even if you want to disregard that particular point, there's still all of his other actions throughout the movie. Because once the baby gets away, Soto makes quite a few thinly veiled threats to Diego about what will happen to him if he doesn't succeed in capturing him. And based off the way Diego spends most of the movie desperately trying to get him out of Manny's grasp so that he can please Soto, it's obvious that Diego knows he's not messing around. And considering the fact that he wants to kill the baby in order to avenge his fallen packmates in the first place, the fact that he's willing to threaten the life of one of the survivors should he fail in the task he gave him shows that he views his pack as nothing more than tools to do his bidding. If they died serving him, then he will do them the honor of avenging them. But if they fail him, then they are no longer of any use to him and he'll banish them from the pack at best and kill them at worst. And honestly, it's this treatment of his pack that leads Diego to turn on him, because he's so used to Soto's selfish nature and the every man for himself in an emergency mentality of his pack that he doesn't even attempt to ask for help when his life is in imminent danger. And when Manny goes to help him anyway, he's left baffled by the fact that he would risk his life trying to save him, because he knows that Soto would never do the same for him in the same situation. And it's after this that he starts to see Soto for who he really is and realizes what true friends do for each other. Because in short, Manny values his life simply because he's a living being. Soto, on the other hand, values his life only as long as he can do things for him. And if his life were in danger, Soto certainly wouldn't risk his own precious skin to save him. Because after all, he can always find a new saber-toothed tiger to replace him, even if it would be a bit difficult. And this is only further proven to be the case at the climax when Diego does turn on him, and after a moment of trying to get him out of the way, simply concludes that he'll kill him first. In one instant, he goes from seeing Diego as an ally to an enemy that must be eliminated simply because he will no longer do his bidding. He could have just walked away and accepted that he wouldn't have Manny as a meal and forget about his revenge quest, and everybody would have lived and gone their separate ways. But because to Soto, his desires are the only ones that matter, he won't hesitate to kill his own packmate if that's what it takes to get a meal and satisfy his lust for revenge. So in the end, when you really look at him, Soto is nothing but a selfish, sociopathic pack leader who simply views his members as nothing more than tools and wants petty revenge more to satisfy his wounded pride than to actually avenge the deaths of his fallen packmates, as his treatment of Diego makes rather obvious. And one thing I must say I give the writers a lot of credit for is his death scene. Because you have to admit, not many kids' movies would have the guts to actually have the hero of the story deliberately kill the movie's villain when they have the opening. I mean, sure, it's not the impact directly, but rather falling icicles that kills Soto and thus technically keeps Manny's hands clean because he didn't know that would happen. But that doesn't change the fact that he still strikes him with intent to kill. He's not just trying to knock him off balance or distract him. You can just see by the look in his eye that he means to end his life with that blow. And again, even if he's totally justified, that was still pretty bold for a kid's movie. But at the same time, it's also completely appropriate for deeper thematic reasons as well. Because as we find out earlier, Manny's family was killed indiscriminately by a bunch of hunters that he couldn't do anything to save. And it's by rescuing the baby and trying to bring him back to his father that he starts to find purpose in his life again and move on from what happened. But Soto's wanting to kill the baby that gave him back his will to live is almost like the hunters coming back once again to take the first thing that he's allowed himself to grow attached to since his family's death. So this time, when that baby is threatened and he has the chance to save him, he does not pull his punches and not only kills the would-be murderer, but makes it very clear that he won't hesitate to do the same to any other threat to that baby. In other words, through his willingness and determination to kill Soto, Manny is able to do what he tried but couldn't do for his family. So the point is, when you really look at it, Soto is most definitely not meant to be a sympathetic character. He doesn't care about anybody but himself and what he wants, is willing to abandon or even kill his packmates at the drop of a hat if they outlive their usefulness to him, would rather slaughter a baby in a petty act of revenge to satisfy his ego than actually risk his life trying to attack those responsible for wronging him, and is even meant to represent the savage and unforgiving nature of the world the characters live in that they try so desperately to overcome. And in the end, his death shows how they're able to succeed in that by letting go of their hatred and embracing the best parts of themselves, everybody else is able to walk away a healed and better person, which was something that Soto, in his selfish stubbornness, just wasn't able to. And in the end, he paid the ultimate price for it, which he was more than deserving of. Okay, I think that's everything I've got on that. So now I'd like to hear from all of you. Do you believe that Soto from Ice Age was way too petty and ruthless to be seen as justified in what he was trying to do? Or do you still believe that he had a better argument than I'm giving him credit for? Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And like always, you don't have to agree with any opinions expressed in this video just because you watched it. You can feel any way you want about any topic we discuss here. And thank you all for watching. I really appreciate all of it. And I hope to see you all next time.